The AFL has no greatest club right now. With Collingwood winning their 16th premiership, they move up to equal first with arch rivals Carlton and Essendon. Any pairing of these three teams is a big deal and will attract huge crowds. Now this total of 16 is including all the VFL premierships, which I fully get non-Victorians. We'll get to the AFL period of time later on. It is significant that there is now a three-way tie. It sets up a fascinating 2024 for each of the sides who all have come into the season optimistic and for good reason. But each of their 16 premierships haven't come at similar times. Each club has had periods of significant dominance in the competition. Starting off with the Pies, who had their biggest period of success in the late 1920s and early 1930s. They famously won 4 grand finals in a row between 1927 and 1930, also winning back-to-back in 1935 and 1936. The rest of their premierships have come here and there, but the Collywobbles weren't made up as they lost 4 grand finals between 1950 and 1960, and then lost a further 5 between 1970 and 1981. Since 1897, Collingwood have been the most consistent of the big three, making 43 grand finals, by far the most out of any club. Essendon won the first official VFL premiership in 1897, and they've been good in each decade, winning 2 flags in the 20s, 40s, 60s and 80s. Since 2000, their last grand final win, it's been rough for Bomber fans. And to end with the Blues, it was the 70s and 80s where 6 of their wins came from. 3 in a row from 1906 to 1908 has been the club's most successful short span of time, but since those great teams in the 80s and some in the 90s, it has been a big fall off. I think that's the biggest takeaway from these clubs. A lot of their success has been decades ago now. It feels the Pies flag last year was almost a reset for all of them. Everything is equal at the top in terms of premierships, so which one of the three can break out and try to create a 2 or 3 premiership lead? Even Collingwood, who have won 2 flags in 2010 and 2023, have had down years and moments. On the field, they have had a lot of winning seasons in the 2000s, but the racism report was a big issue at the time. Eddie Maguire has had his lapses of judgment, which indirectly always affects the club, and various players have misbehaved off the field. To be fair, Collingwood has responded well most of the time and are now the most powerful club in Australia. It's Essendon and Carlton who have clearly been the 2 powerhouses who have struggled in the past 15 years. The Bombers had the drug scandal in the early 2010s, which cost them so much. A huge $2 million fine was only the start, as then coach James Hird was banned alongside 34 players for 12 months. They have played finals in spots, but only within the bottom half of the top 8, and have never been able to get on a roll. Board instability and a raft of coaches from Hird, Worsfold and Rutten created too much movement to set in a good football program. Similar issues occurred at the Blues. Their issues started far earlier, with the salary cap breaches resulting in losing picks 1 and 2 in the 2002 draft, its first and second round picks in 2003, and they were fined nearly $1 million. Since then, unlike the general mediocrity of Essendon, it has just been plain bad for Carlton. Since 2000, they have played finals just 6 times and finished on the bottom of the ladder 5 times. Just like Essendon, board issues, media scrutiny, bad players, and so many different coaches left them in a seemingly hopeless cycle of bad teams. But things have changed for all of the big 3 Victorian clubs, at least on paper. It's very possible all 3 will be competing in September. The last time this happened was all the way back in 2011. That season, Collingwood would make the grand final, but would fall short to a great Geelong team, while Carlton at 5th and Essendon at 8th played off against each other in an elimination final. The Blues won easily, but as expected, the crowd was a tick over 90,000. They are always big games. In fact, it's only one of 2 times this century all 3 have been in finals together. The other time was in 2009, so it's an incredibly rare event to see. Next year is one of the best chances of them doing this in recent times. Collingwood are coming off the premiership and don't seem to be slowing down. The mix of young and veteran players has them in good stead, and they have an elite coaching panel, maybe the best in the AFL. Carlton finally have a coach they trust in and the players buy into. The leadership seems to be aligned in all phases, and the playing list is very good. They have stars on every line. And I know some of you may be questioning Essendon, but let's look at what is in front of us. The board has been relatively quiet, and with a really good and experienced senior coach in Brad Scott, the leadership might be the best it's been in 15 years. The players have said they are finally driven, which is easy to do, but with the various off-season camps, it seems they are putting in the real work. Ben Mackay, Jade Gresham and Xavier Dersma are very nice acquisitions, especially Mackay, who may fix the huge key defence hole that has been gaping for years. They look stable. In recent memory, there has been no better opportunity for the top 3 VFL AFL clubs to all meet again in finals. Moving into the AFL era, which began in 1990, a clearer picture shows where these 3 rank among the other clubs. With their 3rd flag in this period of time, Collingwood sit equal 4th with Brisbane on 3 premierships, while the Bombers have 2 flags, 2 runners-up and 2 prelim final losses, placing them roughly in the middle of the pack for success in the era. Carlton are near the bottom with a single flag, 2 runners-up and a handful of finals appearances. In the AFL time period, Collingwood is still thereabouts at the top, but for the entire 34 seasons, there is a new big 3, Hawthorn, Geelong and West Coast. Hawthorn have 5 flags and 18 final series, Geelong have 4 flags, 22 final series, and the Eagles have 4 flags and 24 finals appearances. Richmond had a phenomenal 4-year run, but that's been about it. Sydney have been fantastic, but are just 2-5 in grand finals. They are just in the rung below. However, the big 3 in the AFL era all have something in common. To various degrees, they are right now in rebuild mode. Hawthorn are a few years in, West Coast are just beginning, and Geelong are in an awkward space with most of their best players veterans. So for the first time in seemingly forever, the original Big 3 all on 16 premierships look set up to battle it out for a 17th. It might not seem a big deal right now, but whichever one of the clubs can get to 17 will celebrate it. It was only last season we saw Essendon and Carlton unite, placing their premierships together inside the MCG. To the clubs and their fans, it is a big deal. Membership tallies are nice, playing in front of the most people is exciting, but nothing will ever beat being the most successful club in a sport. Right now, the opportunity to become this is up for grabs.